Hi everyone, welcome back. We are now on episode 5 in this tutorial series. For photography, I've already taught you guys the basics of composition, camera settings, and even how to edit in Lightroom. Today, I'll be going through the most popular type of photography, portrait photography. Let's get started. Portrait photography is actually a type of photography that almost everyone with a camera does, whether you know it or not, because by definition, portrait photography is a type of photography that captures a person or a group of people with their given emotion and personality. So I'm going to give you guys a few tips and tricks that you should always keep in mind if you want to improve the type of portrait pictures that you take. The first tip that I'm going to be giving you guys is to always use a telephoto lens. For those that own a full frame camera, it should be around 85mm, while for those that have a crop sensor, it should be around 56. For those with the newer versions of the iPhone, I think iPhone 7 onwards, you guys should be switching to portrait mode because that is where the iPhone switches to its second lens, which is a telephoto lens. Before I move on to the second tip, I just want to explain why you should be using a telephoto lens. It's actually not because you get to stay further away from your subject when taking the photo, but because telephoto lenses give the illusion that the subject is actually further away from the background than it actually is. Coming up on your screen are two photos taken with two different lenses, one being a telephoto and one being a shorter and wider lens. You can notice that the one taken using the telephoto lens makes it seem that I am further away from the wall than it is when I used the shorter and wider lens. So that is why you use a telephoto lens, to give your subject more distinction from everything else in the photo. Tip number 2, have the right camera settings. First, you want to have your aperture as wide as possible, meaning the f number should be as low as possible. For most telephoto lenses, your aperture, I believe, should get as low as f2 or f1.8. This is so that the opening in your lens will be very wide, meaning a lot of light will come in, which means your photo will be sharp. On top of that, you want your ISO to be as low as possible. This is because if you raise your ISO, not only will the image be overexposed and too bright, there will also be grains that will appear on your photo. This means that after setting your aperture to its lowest f number, you want to adjust your shutter speed accordingly for the photo to have the right exposure. Oh yeah, hold on. Another reason behind having a wide aperture, a very wide aperture, is not only to have as much light come in, and for a sharp image, it also allows you to have that nice bokeh effect with the blurry background. It helps direct all the focus to the subject, and it gives a nicer look towards your photo overall. Tip number 3, find a good background. Your photo still won't be good even if your subject poses very nicely, or if your subject is beautiful or handsome. It still won't be a good photo if your background is not good or it's just plain and dull. Find a good background. Even at home, there are many ways to find a nice background to your photo. It can be in the garden, or it can be by the window where the sun hits you a certain height. I don't know. Just find a good background, please. It makes the photo much, much better. Tip number 4, incorporate your subject with the background. Photography in general is all about the harmonious mix between your foreground and your background, and since in portrait photography, your subject is most of the foreground, it's very important for your subject to be blending in with the background. What am I saying by this? You should have your subject to have their expressions, their pose, their actions, and their emotions match with what is behind them or what is around them in the photo. It's not right for someone to be sad or mad when they're in the middle of a nice colorful sunflower field, and it's also not nice if someone is just standing still in the photo when they have such a nice, beautiful background. do what you must, have your subject do what they should do for them to be blending in with the background, or for them to be harmonious in their mix with the background. Yeah. Tip number 5, compose your shot properly. Once you've set your subject with the background, once they are properly blended in, it's your turn. Make sure that you compose your shot properly, whether it be using the rule of thirds, using symmetry, or using leading lines that may be seen in your photo that can help drag the focus to your subject. Make sure that you compose your shot properly, because that's another big step in creating a very, very beautiful photo. This is the 6th and final tip for today, and it is to edit if you want. If you want, because ideally, your photo should already be good enough once you've taken it. Your photo should have already been properly lit with its exposure, and you should have properly framed it. Other than that, I feel the only reason why you should be editing your photo is to make the colors in the photo slightly better to look at. Other than that, your photo should already be good enough for posting on social media. And that's it. That's all I have to say when it comes to these 6 tips about portrait photography. Other than that, you're free. Go experiment. As long as you keep these 6 tips in mind, the possibilities for a good photo are endless. Go ahead, experiment at home. I'm Nathan Bata. I'm part of the school's media team. I hope you learned a lot from me. I hope you continue to stay safe. I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.